Good evening. I'm not the face that you usually see on a Wednesday night, if you do come out on Wednesday nights. Now, I know things didn't happen kind of like what we expected, but that's Florida. You never know what to expect when it comes to the weather. When we were looking at Hurricane Elsa yesterday, about mid-morning, it seemed like it was going to be over top of us as of right now in Marion County. So we spoke about it. We had a pretty brief staff meeting, but we made the call then that we were going to cancel service tonight. So, as you well know, living here in Marion County, the hurricane did not really affect us too much. It kind of hit a good bit north of us, so we had a wet day for sure, but it wasn't anything too crazy. And I pray that no one was affected by it. And if you were, reach out to us. Let us know if you need anything. We'd be happy to assist you as best as we can. But thankfully for us, it was mostly just rain. I've seen numerous thunderstorms do more damage. In fact, the trees that are down up on the hill, those were knocked over by pretty bad thunderstorms, but definitely not by Elsa that just came on through. So we made the call yesterday, cancel it. We put up the signs. We sent out some messages. We posted it on our Facebook. So when we saw about midday today that wasn't it wasn't going to be a problem. It was kind of late. We already made the call. Some people were already making other plans. So we stayed canceled for now. But I decided I'd come out here and I would do a couple songs. And if you want to worship from your home and sing along, and then I have a small little snippet that I just wanted to share with you, and a bit of encouragement maybe to give to you for tonight. So if you know the songs, I'm one man. I'm running the streaming. I'm playing on the guitar and I'm singing. I'm sorry. So I'm not going to be doing the lyrics as well. So hopefully you know the songs. Sing along. If not, worship God, praise Him in your own words, and let's share and break bread with one another tonight. So here we go. And I was buried beneath my shame, and who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you, and I was breathing but not alive, and all my failures I tried to hide. It was my doom, Jesus, and I met you. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, and to your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, and to your glorious day. And now your mercy has saved my soul, and now your freedom is all that I know. The old man knew Jesus when I met you. You called my name, don't play guitar enough. Being on the drums, I'm used to just, hitting. But when you get back to the guitar for a little while, you got to build up those calluses on your fingers a bit. So it's a little rough because I'm a little out of practice, but it's still fun. I love guitar. It's one of my favorites. But it's okay. You stood before creation, eternity in your hand, and you spoke the earth into motion, my soul now to stand. And you stood before my failure, and carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulder, my soul now to stand. So what could I say? What could I do? Offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. For I walk upon salvation, your spirit alive in me. This life to declare your promise, my soul now to stand. So what could I say? What could I do? Offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So what could I say? What could I do? Offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. So what could I say? And what could I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. more I find you, the more I love you. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. Lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. Closer, take me a little deeper. Wanna know your heart, wanna know your heart. So love is so much sweeter than anything I've tasted. Wanna know your heart, wanna know your heart. Know your heart. Pull me a little closer, take me a little deeper. Wanna know your heart, wanna know your heart. Your love is so much sweeter than anything I've tasted. Wanna know your heart, wanna know your heart. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. Well, I'm glad to that you're joining with me tonight. What we've been talking about in youth for the past couple months has been dealing with the fruits of the Spirit. Now, I know my father did a sermon on the fruits of the Spirit, and he yelled at me that Sunday because I started to preach his sermon before he got up there. But it's a wonderful, in-depth study to get into. And he didn't go as in depth as he can, and you know he can, because we did Romans for almost 2 years straight. So, and to be fair, there's a lot in Romans, but still, 2 years straight. So he can take something and he can make it last, and you know that. But I'm doing that with the youth right now with the fruits of the spirits, and it's still good. It's good. And I wanted to speak with you about faithfulness. And we've talked with the youth on this subject already, and just bring some examples of faithfulness in the Bible. And it's funny because when I'm going through some of the fruits of the Spirit, and I'm not going in order by any means. I'm saving love for last, which love is the one that's listed first. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness. And I got them out of order. But anyways, you know, and I'm just going out of order myself. So tonight, I just wanted to talk about faithfulness. It's neat because some of the examples I use for some of the traits, I use the same example for other traits. For example, Abraham. Abraham, when we spoke about patience, we spoke about Abraham. Now, why would you talk about Abraham for patience? Well, he was 90 years old, or Sarah was 90, he was 100, somewhere in there. They were far past childbearing age. And not only just childbearing age, but child taking care of age. I mean, I take Lila and I go to pick her up and I throw her up in the air because just what you do. But after a couple throws, I'm 29 and I'm already getting tired. And Sophie's running around the corner. Daddy, can you throw me in the air? I'm like, oh, I could pick you up, but you're not as small as Lila, and Lila's keeps getting bigger too. And my 29-year-old back is not holding up like it should. So, Abraham was way past the point of having children, and he was about to come into that childbearing time. And so patience, because Abraham was deemed to be the father of many nations. He was going to have as many offspring as there are stars in the sky. And he was getting old. He knew it was way past that time, but where God promised it, so it's going to happen, basically. And but before he was patient for his promise, or had to be patient for his promise, and he kind of jumped the gun there, but before then, the Bible mentioned something, and there was a reason he was chosen to be known as the father of many nations. There was a reason he was called upon, and it was because he was found faithful. So because of his faithfulness, he found favor with God, and he was then chosen to be who he was. And so it was through his faithfulness that God honored him and made him the father of many nations. Now, we go over to the story of Joseph. Now, you know the story of Joseph and the coat of many colors, and that was one of my favorite ones to do with the children in Children's Church, because I like to show the extremes from the highs to the lows. And so I was jumping up and down from standing on top of stools, going all the way down the bottom. And I'll explain that because, Joseph felt like he was top dog, and only to be knocked down to where he was literally thrown into a pit by his brothers. So not such a great place to be. And through it all, with everything that happened with Joseph, he was faithful and he honored God, and God rewarded that faithfulness. And in every terrible situation, it was worked out for the better. So yeah, he was thrown into a pit. That's a pretty bad place to be. But when he was then sold into slavery, and not the greatest spot, but amongst that, he was faithful. He honored God, and he found favor, so much so that he was basically in charge of the house. So he's pretty much running the show. Now, you know what happened, and Potiphar's wife got involved in all that achiness, but he was then thrown into jail. Again, he was faithful, he honored God, and he found favor. So God rewarded his faithfulness, and even in the lowest place of being in prison, he was still faithful and he still honored God, and he was basically running the prison from where he was at, even though he was a prisoner himself. And you know how the story goes, where he was interpreting various dreams. They came to pass, and after so long, Pharaoh had a dream himself, and no one could figure it out. And the wine tester was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this guy that interpreted one of my dreams. I was supposed to, throw him a bone, but that was like a few years ago. My bad." Yeah. So there's a guy named Joseph. He interprets dreams, and sure enough, one thing led to another, and Joseph's second in charge over all of Egypt. Because he was faithful, God knew, rewarded his faithfulness, honored that, and God had a plan from the beginning. But it was that faithfulness that was key. Then my third example for faithfulness came with Daniel. And you know the grand old story of Daniel in the lion's den. And it's a very similar story with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Both of them are, they parallel each other very well. And both of their faithfulness, their faithfulness was honored. And it was going to be honored either way. And I'll explain that. See, for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you know the story that this idol was made and for the king, and everyone was to bow down to this idol. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they knew that that's not what we do. We only bow down to our God, to God. And so they were faithful to God. And the king didn't like this. So the king had them thrown into the furnace. Not only were they thrown into the furnace was heated up 7 times hotter than normal, which a furnace which would usually be somewhere around 2,500 degrees, 25 to 3,000 degrees, give or take. Heat that up 7 times hotter, you got 21,000 degree Fahrenheit furnace. The guards that were throwing them in were burning up and dying. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were fine. Now, their faithfulness was going to be rewarded either way, and I'll explain that. Same thing with Daniel in the lion's den. Now, Daniel, you know the story, the other advisors. Daniel was an advisor, but the other advisors didn't like him. He wasn't corrupt enough for them. They couldn't pay him off to do certain things. So they hatched their plan, and they made it so that way for X number of days, you could only pray to the king, nobody else. And Daniel's like, yeah, no. So Daniel, in his faithfulness, he said, I've been praying to God 3 times a day out this window facing Jerusalem. I'm going to keep doing that. And sure enough, they caught him doing that. They knew they were going to catch him doing that because he is faithful. And so they go to the king. They tell the king, And then because the law was signed, the king, even though he didn't want to, the king had to take Daniel and throw him in the lion's den. And again, Daniel's faithfulness was about to be rewarded in one of two ways. Now, we know how both these accounts play out, and in that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were in the furnace, not a single hair on their body was singed. And when the king there, when he looked into the furnace, he saw 4 bodies in there, not just the 3. He called them forth, and they came out. Everything was fine with them. And they were living just as you and I do. Now, God didn't have them live because they were faithful. God had them live as a testament to his power. See, for them, they were faithful. They didn't know if they were going to live or die. And it didn't matter. Because if they lived through it, great. Awesome. They're alive. God saved them. Great. If they die, well, guess what? They're just that much quicker to heaven. So their faithfulness was going to be rewarded either way. It was just rewarded in such a way that their testimony could be used as an example for the kingdom at that time. Same thing with Daniel. See, Daniel, he was thrown into the lion's pit. He continued to be faithful to God, even though it meant his imminent death. I mean, a pit of lions are not going to be so kindly to you and I. So, again, Daniel's faith was going to be rewarded in one of two ways. We know how it turned out, that when the king came the next morning, because the king, he liked Daniel. He didn't want to throw Daniel into the pit. He had to because of the law, but he didn't want to. And when this had happened, the king was distraught all night, and he ran towards the pit, and he called out for Daniel. Daniel's like, yeah, I'm down here. Everything's good. I'm fine. And so that, again, whether Daniel lived or whether Daniel died, Daniel was taken care of. He was fine. His faithfulness was going to be rewarded. God sought that Daniel's faithfulness be rewarded in life and used as a testament to who he is, who God is. And sure enough, the king, made the decree that we should only be worshiping the God of Daniel, And so that's the faithfulness for these people throughout the Bible. It's a strong faithfulness, and it's even against all odds of death and the risk of death, that they still push on, and they're continuing to be faithful. So now you see, I'm not going to tell you right now that if you are faithful to God, that everything's going to be hunky-dory and you're going to make it through the worst of situations. And I'm not going to say that, because the Bible doesn't say that. In fact, you can look at Stephen. Stephen, one of the first missionaries, and we know as the first martyr. Stephen was faithful to his death. Now, again, I can't say why God chose for Stephen to die versus live, but he continued to be faithful, and his faithfulness is being rewarded after his death, to where he's in heaven all that much sooner. So Stephen, he's in a better place when the moment he's killed, because he's in that better place because he continued to stay faithful to God, to Christ. So I want to encourage you to continue to stay faithful on a daily basis, and every opportunity that comes your way, to be faithful and to not stray from God. Give God everything and continue to be one with him, and trust in him and rely on him, and be faithful to him in the good and in the bad. It's easy to be faithful in the good. It's difficult when the times come up where You have the king saying, bow down to the statue or get thrown in the furnace. When you have the king saying, no praying or get thrown into the fire, into the lion's pit. It's easy to lose faith when you're being thrown into a pit, when you're being sold into slavery, when you're being thrown into prison. It's easy to lose faith and question, God, where are you? But it's in those times that we got to seek out and trust in God in those harder times than we ever did before. It's easy to trust God when things are good, and sometimes we make that mistake of forgetting about God when times are good, and we don't give him the honor and the glory for the good times, and we tend to use him as a lifeline when the bad times come. But don't get discouraged when those bad times come. Just stay faithful. Stay trusting in him, and he will reward that faithfulness. Whether it's in life or whether it's after death, he will reward your faithfulness. So that's just my one of our youth lessons that we kind of did recently, and just a bit of encouragement I want to bring to you tonight. Again, we didn't realize the weather wasn't going to be too terrible. We probably could have made it out here tonight, but that's okay. You got to see me tonight, which was unexpected for you if you tuned in. If not, then you didn't have to put up with me. But I'm glad for those of you that did join. I'm glad that you stuck around. You have a wonderful night. God bless and stay safe.